Left-handed or right-handed? Who's smarter? Who's more creative? Science has some answers. This is the Focus Group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is the URL for our website. All our media is housed there, including our Tuesday podcast, TFG Unbuttoned, which we urge you to subscribe to. I think you'll enjoy that. And a big thanks to our partners and sponsors here, one of them being Deep Discount. We're going to talk about them later in the broadcast. As I teased at the beginning, we have a couple shop talks which fall later in the show, and that one's about left-handed and right-handed people. I guess there's some thought processes that go around that if you're left-handed, you might be more creative. If you're right, you're this. But, science has a couple answers. And we also have a shop talk about the something called the golden rule of silence, which I have seen Tim use in client situations. Makes me squirm, but it does work. And again,
hate silence. You hate
that's at the latter half of our show. But in this first half, we're going to have some catch-up banter. We have a segment called Caught Our Eye. Then we have our visit with Deep Discount. And then later on, we have a business birthday and the aforementioned shop talk. So welcome to the last week of August. We're now in the, actually next week there's like 3 days, but that's one of those half-week things. So we're basically at the end of August because next week then we go into Labor Day.
Yeah, I can't believe that we've marched along this quick. I was shocked, actually.
Yeah. I look at the calendar, I'm like... Or someone says, "Hey, do you want to get together?" And you know how you plan stuff, and it's like we're planning stuff for September, and it is. Hey, you always say this when we were kids, and the summer break came along. It felt like an eternity, and as an adult, as you get older, it's no eternity. A friend of mine, upstate, Linnea, who I cycle with, she once said to me, "Summer's a really short season. It's one of the shortest seasons of the year." I'm like, no, summer goes on forever. But she's right. It's actually quite short, it's especially that really intense hot part, like July, early August. And then it's kind of, we're into the fall.
Well, and the foolishness of buying new school clothes.
I love that one. Yeah.
Talk about retail making that a demand to go buy clothes. Because I did it. I would buy all new clothes, whatever. But when I think about it now, what foolishness. And what a waste of money. There was no need to go buy all new clothes.
No, and our parents knew it as well, but they went along with it, I'm sure. Do you remember corduroys? Do you still wear corduroys?
I have a couple of wide whale pairs of corduroys that I use on special occasion when they fit.
For the town meetings, I'm sure.
But yeah. No, I have two pairs that I still have, but I did find, we used to wear the old Levi's ones.
Yeah,
they were
an essential. Yeah.
They were hot in the late 70s, early 80s. But yeah, I had you had the Levi's ones, and they came in brown or navy blue or khaki or light blue or wine color, which was maroon.
The wine, I remember distinctly the year they came out with that. That was a lot of kids at school had wine, but I remember you had to have brown. Mustard was a color. Yeah. Was mustard like a mustard brown? Was that like a corduroy color? I remember.
There was that was an odd color.
Didn't go.
And then there was
much.
A light blue that was available too, which usually the ladies got. And but yeah, then there was the navy blue but brown, khaki. I think there was a red one too. But yeah, no, we all had them, right? Mm-hmm. You had them in a sweater, an LL Bean sweater usually, a Norwegian sweater, the camel sweater.
And you knew your favorite corduroys by the wear pattern.
Right.
After a while, there were certain areas that wore down, like the seat of the pants, the knees, just from use, right?
You had your CB jacket or a jean jacket and a turtleneck. There was a Derbiger outfit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all, then we went to you didn't go to a lot of the football games on Saturdays, though, did you?
I used to play in the band. Yeah, I was like the pep rally guy.
Oh, you were? I didn't know you were in the band.
Yeah, so I used to go to the field, was down by, It was
Jeremy. I knew you were in the band, but I didn't know you were in the pep band.
Yeah, we used to play in pep band.
Why did I not know that?
I don't know. Jeremy, where we used to play before we moved to the new school, the old football
community house
near Jeremy Swamp Road, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's where I remember
that old mud pit.
Yeah.
The schools were so poor, yet the towns were so wealthy. The schools were so poor, there was no field. We had no track. We had nothing.
That was the old high school. Then we moved to the new high school, and that had all the bells and whistles. We would run track at the Bruce Jenner Field over in Newtown. Newtown was wealthy. It was the last town in Fairfield County before you came into our counties. It was the Bruce Jenner Field. You took a bus ride over to Newtown we
would run track over there because that's where Bruce Jenner went to high school, and it was such a big deal that Bruce Jenner went to high school there, and he was a triathlete, right? He was a big Olympic athlete.
On the Wheaties box, do you think they still call it the Bruce Jenner track?
Well, it was a big discussion. My mother was telling me they were having a big discussion in Newtown as to whether they were going to keep the track still called Bruce Jenner, and I don't know what happened. I should find out next time I go back to Connecticut to find out if they've kept his name on the track.
I mean, because in all honesty, I guess they should name it the Caitlyn Jenner track, right? To be, sensitive to.
Well, he won it as Bruce, right? He won the awards as Bruce. So I don't know if they would change it to her name. I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah. So have you seen where we graduated from lately? What was the last time you're up in? It hasn't changed too much, but our high school has been built out. The football and the athletics are a lot more prominent than we were. Like when we were in high school, athletics was Now it seems to be a big thing, right?
Well, they're like state champions.
Yeah, totally.
A number of things, which we never were. And I mean, we had good field hockey team. And I think we had a good field hockey team was about it. And the rest of the stuff, we showed up. I think we had a good men's basketball team for a little while for a bunch of white kids. But other than that, they called us farmers. I mean, we would go to these other little towns in northern Fairfield County, and they called us the farmers because we'd show up like these hayseeds. We had no facilities. We had nothing. When I think about it now, kids they would never tolerate it. The parents would never tolerate the lack of facilities that we had. We had nothing.
Well, our parents, Middlebury, Southbury, didn't care too much, But then the flip side is my mom, year after year, she continues to tell me because my mom taught in the district that Tim and I went to school in. She claims that we had one of the best public school educations you can get. Athletics aside, we had some of the finest teachers and some of the best curriculum. Of course, some of our listeners might disagree with our use of like me and I.
We always get... When I went off to college, that was the first thing because Mary Ann and I went to the same college and the same high school. And I remember one of the professors pulling us aside in one of the media writing classes, a journalism class. You and Candido go to the same. You're both from Connecticut. He goes, where were you? Where were you? 7th grade grammar. Out to lunch.
The nutmeg state.
I said our schools, we were that was the time we were in very much of they did a lot of exploratory education, right? Yeah. Remember you let the kids kind of do what they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. It's very kind of new age hippie kind of, kids. I'm going to leave you alone for a few hours, and when I come back, tell me what you did.
Well, you remember we had the rec period that was free for all. You could play ping pong, you could read, you could put on a Shakespeare play. Well, we always got out of that, and Tim had an orange Vega. We zipped down to McDonald's.
Tim and John would go to McDonald's.
But
listen, we made up an elaborate story, so we really did do something prior to the rec time. We made up a story to get ourselves out. So quite frankly, we were creative.
Creative writing, practically, yeah. So that's what I think of when we slide into the early part of September, the late August. My mind does go back to some of those hilarious get ready for school days. And for me, our shopping for back to school was done at the Naugatuck Valley Mall, which no longer exists. And I have a distinct memory of the odor of the Naugatuck Valley Mall. Because remember, it had those water features, all those water wheels everywhere. And the water was always like chlorinated a bit, but it also had been stagnant.
Why we never threw Bubbles or Mr. Bubble in there? I don't know. I mean, that would have been
never
fun.
Thought of it, But I remember it would be, shopping at 2 or 3 stores, and of course a visit to Spencer Gifts to see what, you might pick up, like a cool poster or something like that, and then you were off and running.
I still remember one of those rec things, not to go into the whole story, but I still remember one of the teachers listening to you and I come up with one of our schemes, and I forget who else. Maybe Carol was sitting there, and I still remember you going through, here's chapter and verse, how it was going to happen, and you and I had it down to a science, and he's sitting there listening. Say this will never work. I remember him saying, "Oh, you two really think this is going to work? Like
yeah.
you're really going to pull this one off?" And he said, "You're welcome to use my phone because then we
thank
were
you for
trying to
saying
figure
that
out
because he let us
how we
use
were
the
going to
phone.
call it in. Oh, use my phone. Use my phone."
He sat there and spun the phone around and said, "Go ahead, call that in."
And then as soon as the bell rang, John Nash, please report to the office. And we're like, yes. And he's like, oh, this is going to be good to watch. And then sure enough, he's like, well, congratulations. Enjoy your lunch.
That's what I thought was so cool about that high school was the teachers were active participants in this.
They were in on it.
The scams that you and I would pull. That one, classic. I remember sitting in that office, and when he spun that phone around after he heard the whole script, go ahead.
Yeah, you think this is going to work? This will be a good one. You're going to pull this one off? Let's see how this works.
All right, let's move along, and we're going to go to Caught Our Eye. So let's see what caught Tim's eye.
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Have you seen this on social media? There's these nobility titles you could buy. I've thought of you and Bob for this. I don't know if you've ever seen these things where you could buy a little acre of land or a little square foot of land in Scotland and be a lord or be a baron.
Square foot of land. I'm looking at a square foot. Okay.
Have you seen this?
No.
So it's all over Facebook. You're not a big Facebook fan, but there are places in social media. So there's this big business, and so the title of this article, this came from a newsletter that I get each day called The Hustle. And it says big business in the mostly fake nobility titles. So I saw this and I actually was going to buy one because you can change your name. You could be Lord Bennett of Sealand, or, you could buy. So in Scotland, they're famous for this. They've taken these, what you end up finding out is these farmers. So you could do it up in Ghent. You take your land and you divide it up into 1 square inch, and you could be, Lord Bennett of Ghent. And I would get 1 little square inch of your corn land up there.
The Duke of Ghent. Yeah.
The Duke of Ghent. And you would give me a certificate, and I would have a certificate as the Duke of Ghent, and you would show me where my plot is on the Google Maps. And you can come visit it, and then you change your name for X amount of dollars, and then I could go as legally as the Duke of Ghent or whatever I would be. So people have done this, and what they're saying is it means absolutely nothing. But a lot of people have bought these things really thinking that they are now a lord or a countess or something from either Germany or Scotland or England. And there's big bucks. People are making millions of dollars in this. And so with all they said the advent of Downton Abbey and with 23andMe or Ancestry.com, people are going by and finding, I have relatives in Scotland, and I can buy this little piece of land and near where my ancestral home was, and I can now be a baron or a duke or something. And they're buying this as gifts. Some people realize that the title means nothing. If you're the Earl of, of
Sandwich.
Yeah, the Earl of Sandwich. But some people really take it way too seriously, and they want, they think they're going to go over there all of a sudden and get some sort of royal treatment. And people are just like, who the hell are you? This is nothing. This is nonsense. You just wasted your money. So they go through a number of different people that did this. They talked about Ed Sheeran. He became the Baron of Sealand. Sealand was that place.
Yeah, that's great.
So right off the coast, right? So for $45, you get a deed and a document, and you could be a Baron of Sealand for $45. They said you'd be part of the adventure. It's there's a prince title as well. It was a pirate radio broadcaster who declared Sealand a nation in 1967. He's selling nobility titles right now if you'd like to buy one for $45. They said that you can't buy British peerage titles, that they're given to you.
Mm-hmm.
They can't be bought or sold. And so people that are buying these need to know that. They said the same with Russia's nobility titles. They've not been acknowledged since the Bolshevik Revolution. And the fact that people are buying the Tsarina and buying these sort of things is just a waste of money. So they said that the Brits actually can for free. They said some services come with a deed poll, which in the UK lets you change your first name to Lord or Lady. But they said actually in the UK you can do that for free. I didn't know that. They gave an example of a guy in the UK who changed his name to Mark I Love Spam Benson. And he married the Spam Museum in Minnesota, which is crazy. But you could do the same thing in the U.S. So if you and I wanted to, you could change your name in the U.S. I didn't realize this, for $150 to $450. And if you wanted to be, John of Ghent, or if I wanted to be Tim of Rehoboth, or if you wanted to be Lord John of Ghent, and I wanted to be, Lord Bennett or Lord Tim of Rehoboth or Glenside or whatever, I could do that. So these two people did this for each other for Christmas. He changed his name to Lord Dave of Culver City and Lady Jennifer of Bowling Green, and they use it. It's on their license. And it's funny, they'll go somewhere and they'll go to dinner or whatever, and people will call them Lord and Lady, and they go to the airport and they say they think it's hilarious because they say they'll check into the airport and it'll be Lord and Lady, and people treat them like there's some sort of royalty. They know it's a joke, but they say most people look at it and all of a sudden think they're really something, So they're not in on the joke. But they go on and on about how this is all kind of, as the British call it, rubbish, and they're actually offended by the whole thing, that the Americans are making millions on this, and the Brits are not cashing in as much as they'd hoped they could. So now the Brits are getting in on it. So there's a couple who found an old burned down castle in Scotland, and now they're selling little plots of land in Scotland for this. And you could actually buy these little plots of land. And they said all these Americans are coming over and they're finding, first of all, you can't access most of this land that these people are buying off these cliffs in Scotland. But a lot of people have been upset when they arrive, and there's this old, really burned down there's a picture of it in the article, of this just burned out castle that these Brits have bought. And these people are coming thinking they're expecting to find this castle as it once was, but it's just been burned down and never fixed. It would cost millions to put this castle back into shape. But they're selling off these people bought it, and they're just selling off these little pieces of land, saying that you're part of this, this empire here, but it's really just old burned out land that nobody has the money to fix. So people are making these treks from the U.S. to go there, look at where they're the lord or the baroness from, and then
the barony happens to be an old burned out castle, and you own a square foot, right?
Yeah. So it's been kind of funny. The picture's hilarious. I mean, it's all overgrown with weeds. There's no roof. It's a mess, but it's hilarious. So anyway, I thought it was a great idea. So now they said, even in the U.S. now they're catching on. The Jack Daniel's brewery is now selling Squire titles, so you can buy a piece of the brewery.
I like Squire
or the distillery. You can buy a piece of this. You can be the Squire of the distillery in Lynchburg, Tennessee, which they said essentially it gives you free parking and up front of the distillery.
If you had run for your commissioner's seat with your new title, you might not have been the common man. You might not have been accessible. If you ran as like Lord Bennett or Squire Bennett,
Lord Timothy of Henlopen Avenue.
Could you imagine the signs?
Lord Timothy.
And the people that ran against you, they'd be like, see, he's a privileged person with a title. He can't run the town. It could have been used against you. But I think we should investigate getting they did this thing years ago where they used to sell stars to people. You could buy a star. Like, there are billions, so,
the same sort of thing. Again, another thing we missed. The British, so they said at the end of the day, the British are really quite angry about the whole thing. And the final line, the one Brit said, what I thought was funny, kind of, again, pointing at the Americans, you'll find people with titles are not overbearing and trying to claim things that they're not entitled to, whereas people who bought these fake titles are trying to claim everything.
So Brit. So that's such a Brit response. Now, what caught my eye, being that we were talking about school earlier, is this fascination we all have with fraternity and sorority rushes. And I suppose it's going on now already, correct? So there's apparently a TikTok channel that has 28 million views, and it's called #AlabamaRush. And so the headline was, here's why everyone on TikTok is talking about sorority rush right now. So it opens with this paragraph, and it says, this girl's talking to the camera, and she says, I wore the gray shirt with this skirt, says TikTok user Blake Wright, in a video that's been viewed more than 620,000 times. It's from Mustard Seed, I believe, and I wore these Goldens, again, just to add some color. Same jewelry, except I wore these Kendra Scott earrings just to spice it up, So basically, these girls are like videotaping or TikToking themselves, getting ready for Rush and doing their own thing. And it's people are flocking to watch this. Now, you recall Rush from, obviously your days in college because you had the Greek system on your campus. We didn't really, so this is kind of news to me. Some of the videos are genuinely made by women who are in fact doing the Rush. Others are, of course, parodies, which you can imagine, and it's kind of almost like watching Elle Woods out of Legally Blonde or something. So they make these hilarious parody videos of rushing this sorority down in Alabama. One sorority hopeful's TikTok sound, because she makes a sound or something when the thing starts, has been used in 405 other Rush talks. They're called Rush talks, by the way. So you have a Rush talk.
I'll have to watch these.
So, hey, y'all. Here's another one. Hey, y'all. Another OOTD. I don't know what OOTD was. I was going to look it up in the Urban Dictionary. It's an acronym for something for the second day. And then they show her running into the different things. Some of the Rush talks are made by sisters, sorority members who are already in the house, and it's their point of view of trying to pick out which girls are going to be invited into the house. Everyone on the app's obsessed with following these young women to their sisterhood. And then there's something I learned here called Pref Night. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so Pref Night is when the house decides their preferences, right?
Right.
So then there are other Rush talk videos where girls are talking to the camera and they're all stressed out. Are they going to make it? They're down to the final houses. They want to be chosen by one or two. Those are viewed like 14,000 times. It's just crazy. Writes earnest words that one of the girls you mentioned before, and a genuine emotion in her video demonstrates what has made Rush talk so compelling and meme-worthy. When you're 18 and trying to find a club to let you in during your first year of college, everything seems like life and death. Sororities take a lot into consideration before offering a bid to someone. What are the grades like? What are their reputations like? Fast forward, I think that in the way they did this, about 2,100 girls participate in Rush for this Alabama school. 2,000 were given bids. So that means the 100 were left wondering what they did wrong. So it's called hashtag Alabama Rush, and it's on TikTok, and it's a Rush talk. And apparently people watch these things, and hours later they come out of the rabbit hole like, we are obsessed with sorority Rush down in Alabama thanks to this. Was it not that noteworthy that you would go down the rabbit hole and watch this?
Yeah, it when I look back on it now, it's very similar to the prom, I think, in that a lot of kids kids get left out. And if you get left out, it could be upsetting. And I think people that get left out, it can scar them a little bit. And, our school, I went to a very small college, and the Greeks were quite popular at the time in the 80s. It's not as popular now as it was, or it's different now than it used to be. Some of these large, particularly Southern universities, like the picture you have here, if you're watching on the video, with hundreds of kids. I mean, our houses had, between 60, 70, 80 kids, maybe some houses 30 kids. But Rush was a big deal, and everybody's recommended you go through it, even if you weren't interested in joining a Greek house. You went through it just to meet people and see the different types of folks on campus. I did it because I lived so far away from home, and it was another place kind of to feel like you belonged. They also had their own kitchens, and so there was usually better food at the Greek houses. And they had Sunday dinners that were a little more formalized. And so in that aspect, you felt like you belonged. I knew right away when I walked into the house which one I wanted to be in. And a lot of people say that. I had gone through Rush, and there were 7 houses, and I'd gone through 6, and I was like, I'm not going to join a Greek house. And then I went into the Lambda Chi house, and I was like, oh, my God, I'm home. And they were playing, I still remember they were playing Olivia Newton-John's Physical. Everybody was dancing, having a great time. Meanwhile, I'd gone to these other houses that were filthy. Some of them were just not what you'd expect. It was like Animal House. I mean, when you think about and if you watch that. But I was also a rower, and I joined a house where the rowers were not. And in retrospect, I actually, as the years had gone on, I've actually was a lot closer with a lot of my rowing brothers or my rowing
your teammates, yeah.
Because we spent a lot of time together traveling on the road on weekends, overnights, and you know how that could be when you travel with people like that. So But I had a great experience with the fraternities and sororities. But I do know that there were kids that wanted to be, and I've heard this later on, kids that had come up to me, God, I really wanted to be a Lambda Chi, or I really wanted to be a Chi O, or whatever the thing was. And when they didn't get a bid or they didn't get accepted, it really affected them. And some kids actually had either transferred schools or they had, because maybe their dad was or their mom was, and
a legacy. They might have been a legacy.
And it really affected kids. And I thought about it, and I thought, God, how sad. And there were kids that I wanted that didn't get accepted.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it was cutthroat. We're only going to take 10 people, and there was a cut.
I just remember the stories of something called the black ball and the white ball.
Yeah.
And that was how the girls voted, or someone voted. You had two balls, a black or a white, and if the name came up and everybody had to show what. If it was a white, it was they're in. If it's black, they're out. I don't know. So Rush Talk at Alabama.
They stopped doing it now at Marietta. They had something called Bull Run, and the women's dorm was on a hill, and you could never do it now. It was so politically incorrect. So the whole campus would gather at the bottom of the hill, and then the dean would come out in kind of her duck skirt and little papagala, bag and espadrilles, and she would announce the sorority. And the girls would come running out. They called it Bull Run. They'd come running down the hill, and people would count, and they'd applaud, and they'd scream, and they'd yell, and you'd count how many girls a house had, and you decide, who. And it was like a cattle call. They called
Hence
it Bull
called
Run.
Bull Run. Yeah. So no, I think that was a tradition that would not survive in today's.
No, not anymore. So it really was. It was running through the gauntlet. Girls broke their legs. You'd see girls on crutches the next day.
I did not have such a. Binghamton University did not have the Greek life, and if it did, it was very minimal, and I knew nothing about it. So I feel like I missed something here, but I missed Bull Run, for example. So
you had your own sort of run that you used to do. A whole different level of running.
Oh, true. We're going to leave it there. And we're going to say, as many of you know, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we would like you to check out their website by going to ours, focusgroupradio.com, and clicking on the Deep Discount logo, which is a shark named Sharky. And this week, we have a under 10 sale. So it's movies and TV series for under $10, Blu-ray and DVD. One of my favorite sales because there's a lot of stuff you can pick up. And you could fill your cart because it's all under 10. So you could do a bunch of stuff and have some movies and TV shows that you can never find on the streaming platforms and check them all out. So in the spirit of the under 10, Mr. Bennett, what did you select as your movie this week?
Well, once again, Deep Discount, unsinkable since 2001. I picked another movie that I've not seen, which I'll get yelled at by you and Lauren. And it was number one right up there on the under 10 budget. It was Casablanca.
You have not seen
No,
Casablanca. It's $8.93, and I think you better order a copy ASAP. Are you serious? You've not seen Casablanca?
It's the anniversary edition too. It's remastered, and it's under $10. What you say? It's $8.93.
Uh-huh.
And one of the classic movies of all time, right? One of the top movies of all time. And I laughed because as I was reading about it, I thought, how have I not seen it?
How have you not seen? You have not seen this. You've not seen Gone with the Wind. I mean, the American Film Institute would put you in the gallows because you've missed some of these classics, right?
Well, the funny thing too is when I was doing a little research on it, I looked up and they have more movie quotes of the top 100 movie quotes of all time than any other movie, followed by Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz, which was tied for second. But they have actually 6 of the top 100 movie quotes of all time. And so they had them listed. Here's Looking at You, Kid.
Line up the usual suspects. Yeah,
the top one. Yeah. Lewis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Yeah. So
play
the
it,
lines.
Sam, play it.
Play it again, Sam. Dun dun. You must remember this. Oh my.
Right. We'll always have Paris.
We'll always
all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world. She
walked into this. So you've kind of seen it. Because you know all the famous lines. Okay.
No, I'm reading them to you, but I knew the lines, but I've not, for whatever reason, I don't know why. We didn't have a good TV at our house.
You're going to blame that old black and white. Well, we did too.
Blame my parents.
It's easier that way. All right, so I picked a movie that I have not seen in many, 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 many years, and it's the movie version of A Chorus Line. And this came out in 1995, I think, 1985. It stars Michael Douglas, who plays the director. And it was directed by Richard Attenborough, which is a pretty amazing director. And, Chorus Line was the movie, right? Like everybody knew Chorus Line. And Bob, in fact, had a teacher in school who used to actually go to see Chorus Line like once a week and stand in the standing room only section of the Broadway theater. And he knew all the songs, and sometimes he would sing them for the kids. And Bob said it was kind of creepy in a way because he was obsessed with Flash dance. But Marvin Hamlish did the Oscar-nominated music, and it's an Academy Award winning. It was nominated for an Academy Award as the adaptation of the Broadway musical. And we all know the song "One Singular Sensation," or of course, one of my favorites was, "Tits and Ass," about plastic surgery and how you get ahead in the world of Chorus Line. So that was my pick.
You know the famous goof in that, right? In that movie. If you get this DVD, so at Sidetracks, famous bar in Chicago, famous gay bar, they would play this every Sunday, and during Showtime night. And so at the finale of this movie, they're doing the big, singulars and the whole, there's hundreds of people dancing, and the crowd starts yelling. So during this huge screen, and people are yelling, "Fall, fall, fall, fall," and you're watching, and then somebody is circled on the screen at the bar. One of the people falls off the riser, and you can see them fall. So if you watch the finale of A Chorus Line in the movie, you'll see the person doing the kick, fall. She falls off the ride. The whole crowd goes crazy. Everybody toasts their drink, and then end of the song. So you'll see. So if you watch the finale, and watch the person fall off the riser.
Folks, he hasn't seen Casablanca, but he knows what happens at the end of the movie adaptation of A Chorus Line, which I gave you props for. Okay, and the release this week is a movie called The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Now, I laughed at the very first 2 words of this description, and I think to myself, Lauren must have picked this just for us. Connecticut, 1981. So I'm thinking Lauren's sitting in her office, and she's like, oh, we got to have Tim and John do this, The Conjuring, because they're from Connecticut. Occult investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, Patrick Wilson, and Vera Farmiga were on hand to document the exorcism of 8-year-old David Glatzel, who's played by Julian Hilliard. So it's a The Conjuring. All you need to see are the 2 words, or 3. Conjuring, Devil Made Me Do It kind of thing. We know it's in that horror film exorcism kind of thing. So
right, and those 2 lived, I think, in Monroe. They didn't live far from us. They were famous. I don't know if you've seen them in a lot of these things.
I knew you would know this. And Lauren probably knew you would know this too. So there you go. The release this week, the new release is The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Conjuring. So, hey, head over to focusgroupradio.com, click on the deep discount logo, start shopping away. I'm recommending a movie I haven't seen, Casablanca, which I need to see. John picked A Chorus Line, and of course, the new release this week is The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It on Blu-ray. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have Shop Talk for you, which is going to look at some creativity versus left or right-handers and the golden rule of silence, as well as our business birthday. So stay tuned.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Welcome back to The Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is where all our media is housed, including TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast. And we have all our partners and sponsors there. And if you were listening to our last segment, Deep Discount is featured there. And I think that, maybe some of us are going to do a GoFundMe page, and we're going to start financing the movies that Tim hasn't seen. It's going to be a cheap GoFundMe. Well, our goal will be like $110. We'll get him Casablanca, Gone with the Wind. I'm sure the list may surprise some people. And then there are the movies that you've seen that others haven't, and it's like, wow, how did he see that? So
yeah, I know. I'm bad. I'm a bad movie boy.
No, you were hey, a movie that I think you might enjoy. We talked about once before, I, Tonya, about Tonya Harding. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't.
Oh, Tim, you'll love it. I think it's right up your alley. I think I, Tonya is. All right, so see, our list of GoFundMe for Tim, the movies Tim has not seen, classic and new. Could be an ongoing thing. Lauren and I will work on this together.
Well, there's a movie club down here. I almost think I should join it. And that way I can, that way I would, and there's a book club.
I
and
like
a
the movie club idea. I like movie club because that's easy. You can watch the film, right?
It'd be good for you.
So I suppose if I said Lawrence of Arabia, that's also one that's not been.
No, I didn't like those period pieces.
Yeah, Dr. Zhivago.
No.
Oh, see, we're gonna have to increase the GoFundMe to maybe $200. I'll puzzle about that.
I saw The English Patient, which just kind of reminds me of all that stuff.
But Tim, we both agree that remember in Seinfeld how much they hated The English Patient,
right? Well, when Elaine starts yelling, "Die already! Just
die!" Guess what? We felt the same way. Yeah, it's all yeah. Anyway, without further ado, we have a business birthday from Tim.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
I don't know why I thought she was older, but born today, August 25th in 1968, Rachael Ray is 53 years old today. I thought she might have been a little older. Celebrity, television personality, businesswoman, celebrity cook and author. Rachael Ray, yeah. So, yeah, you know her. She's a syndicated daily talk and lifestyle program person on the Food Network, 30-minute meals. She's pretty much done every single possible food show you could do, whether it's been a cook-off or she's been a guest on something. She's been on all the different Food Network shows, had her daytime show, evening show. She's been a guest. She's done books. She's done a number of things. She started off, she's born in Glen Falls, New York. We have a friend from Glen Falls, New York.
Well, I used to live in Glen Falls, New York for a while.
You did?
Yeah, and it was when we were very young, and I had no idea she's from Glens Falls. Okay.
Yeah, it's Glens Falls, New York. How far up is that? Is that up?
It's above Saratoga, so it's about 45 minutes north of there. So it's up there, but it's not that far.
So in 1995, she moved to New York City, and she worked at the candy counter at Macy's in the marketplace. And they wanted to promote her to a buyer of accessories, and she didn't want to do that. So she went to another company, a specialty food store in New York called Agata and Valentina. And she worked there for a while, and then she moved back to the Adirondacks, and she managed a store called Mr. Brown's Pub, or a restaurant, I guess, at the Sagamore Hotel in Lake George. And she became a buyer for a place called Cohen and Lobel, which was a gourmet market in Albany. Now, I've noticed now they're saying Albany. Have you noticed that on the news?
I don't know why. How would you pronounce it? I say Albany.
I say Albany too, but I've noticed all these newscasters now are calling it Albany. What is it?
It's Albany.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's like people always say Bury, and we live there, and it's Barry.
It's Barry, and it's kind of like we have a town near us called Cairo. Others call it Cairo, but upstate it's Cairo.
That's like down here. Well, anyway. So she credits her concept of the 30-minute meals, which made her famous, to her experience working in the stores where she would meet people that didn't really want to cook. So she's selling all these gourmet foods and stuff, and they're like, I don't know, it's going to take too long. And she's like, you shouldn't take any more than 30 minutes to make meals. Now, I think you ascribe to that.
Mm-hmm. I do.
You're pretty good about that. And so she got a gig on a local affiliate up there in Albany, and she would appear and do these weekly segments on the newscast. And then she ended up getting picked up the Today Show. Somebody, was probably upstate on the weekend, half in the bag, and saw her, and they decided to bring her down to the Today Show. And she had her first contract at network TV in 2001. And so she was known as kind of the person who favored quick and easy cooking styles and would do these 30-minute meals, and that was her show. And I actually do enjoy watching her. I will watch her do stuff. She credits her I do watch her shows because I think they're simple and quick. She credits her Sicilian and Cajun style of cooking based upon her maternal grandfather. And she says she only uses fresh herbs, garlic, chicken stock to boost her flavors.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't believe in measuring. She says she thinks that takes away the creative process. So she's always very much hands-on, and she just uses approximations. And she'll say, a half a palmful or a pan swirl or something. And critics say that that's not how you should cook. But she says, I have no formal training. She says, I'm completely unqualified for any job I've ever had. She said, and I'm not a chef. And I've never said I'm a chef, but, I cook for my family. I know how to, make meals, and this is how I do it. And I learned on the fly. They said her television program, she used catchphrases such as EVOO, which was the extra virgin olive oil, Yummo, GB, which was garbage bowl, oh my gravy, Stoop, which was a cross between, soup and stew and other things. She's a spokesperson. She had a line of clothing, coffee. She's done dog food.
Pet food,
goes on and on and on and on and on. And so I won't go through it all. But so how much do you think she's worth?
I'm going to guess 450 million.
No, that's a lot.
200 million?
No, 60 mil.
60 mil. All right. I'll take 3. I'll take 1.
Take a mil.
Yeah,
she has a line of home furnishings. I had no idea.
They must just license the name then, right?
Yeah. So happy birthday, Rachael Ray. You said, do you know anyone who knows her? I always thought she was someone. I have some of her dishes. I will say I don't like them. I have I bought these kind of serving dishes that I saw on her show. I think they're too shallow. My food always spills out.
Yeah. No, I don't know anybody who does know her. But I just know she's really popular and accessible. A lot of people think she's relatable. That's the word I was looking for. Relatable.
Yeah.
Excellent business birthday. Okay, as the at the top of the show, we promised 2 really quick shop talks. The first one is this interesting thing about, are lefties smarter than righties, left-handed versus right-handed? And, people actually study this, and there have been studies done, and they looked at a very large sample, and they were looking for correlations between IQ, creativity, the whole bit. And, some of these studies included 22,000 people, or they would combine up to 36 studies, which then if you took the combined, people who participated, you'd be looking at 66,000 people. And, are we surprised if I read the following? Most of the studies in the review found pretty much 0 difference in mean scores between right-handed and left-handed participants. In the meta-analysis that compared right-handers and left-handers specifically, the research did find that right-handers had the slight edge. Their mean IQ scores were just a tiny bit higher. Then they also looked at creativity as well, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I wondered about. You always heard that left-handed people were more creative. Now they did. There was a study that was done once about presidents. Remember that one where they talked about president, because Obama, Clinton, Bush, they were all left-handed, and people wondered about that. And what is it? Only 10% of the population is left-handed.
That's it. Yeah, 1 in 100.
So I always thought that they just justified their oddness by just saying that they were, creative or something. But this study says that not necessarily so. But do you know a lot of left-handed people, or the left-handed people do you think they are different?
No, not at all. And in fact, I only notice left-handedness if someone's taking notes or signing a check, or mostly it's note-taking. And when we were younger, there was a trend for a while to try to get kids who had a left-hand dominant, bent to them to actually switch to using the right, and then that all stopped, and they're like, whatever hand the child wants to write with is perfectly fine. And that's where we're at right now. I don't think there's any big difference. You never noticed a difference, did you?
I always thought I kind of did, but maybe it was just my imagination. But, they're always looking for the left-handed scissors. Remember when you were in school?
Yes, I do remember that.
Left-handed scissors. Yeah. They couldn't learn to cursive write properly.
Yeah, because you had to
hand a certain way.
Yeah.
So, but I saw this and I thought it was interesting. Now I did at the very end of this. It says, I don't know if you did this. It says, in the meantime, if you're looking for an objective sense of your own creativity, there's this 4-minute word test. Did you do it? I did it.
I've done it.
It won't take you 4 minutes. It'll take you 10 seconds.
It will. And you can retake it and retake it and retake it. And is this so how did you fare?
I got an 87.7. So I was above it was 87, so it was above whatever the mean was. So I was creative, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I didn't quite understand. I was trying to read and interpret the score. I did it right before we came on, and after I read the article. Did you take it as well?
I've taken it multiple times, and
Oh, you have?
yeah,
Oh,
and I'm always fascinated. So the test that Tim's referring to is you're supposed to think of like 10 words, and they have to be unrelated. And the more unrelated they are, the better. So you might think of goldfish, Jupiter, like, so we have a fish, we have a planet, like, and then they score you on how different these concepts are, because the further apart they are, supposedly the smarter, or but you get these things better.
How'd you do?
I was the first time I did it was an 84.6. The second time it dropped to a 79, and then I took a couple days, and I saw it pop up in another article, and I did it again, and it was a higher score. It was like an 88 point something, but I've never been able to crack 90, and I keep thinking there must be something about the words I'm picking, right? So I would pick like chair, and then I'd go like ocean. You know how you had to
Right.
So somehow they must be related. I'm like, so I've not been able to get more than those couple of scores, and then I kind of lost interest, because I'm like, what am I really learning from this?
Well, I'll put the test on our Facebook page.
You should.
So
you should.
Yeah, so people can take it and see how they do. I didn't. So the interpretation of it. Were you? Maybe I didn't read it. I did it sort of fast. So maybe
Same
I did
here.
Not,
Same here.
I did not read the interpretation correctly of what my score was, but. So we'll see. But
it's an objectively looking at creativity, and it was from McGill University, Harvard, and the University of Melbourne. And there's not much they don't give you much. Like, they don't analyze your answers. They basically just say, here's what this was designed to do. The more you can hold very different concepts in your head, like a school book and a rocket, like whatever how far apart they are, that is an indicator of how creative you are. And then they have this artificial intelligence thing actually analyze your answers. That's how we got these scores we got. I don't know if the AI did a good job or not. Now, the other shop talk we have is one that we also talked about at the beginning. Short article that came out of, I think it might have been Inc. or Fast Company as well. And this is called How to Use the Golden Silence Technique to Win Negotiations. Oh, this was out of Lifehacker. That's right. So the theory here is that when you are asked to, and I'll set this up by saying they set the article up by talking about a situation where a salesperson is talking to their client, and they ask the question, what else can we be doing, or what else do you need us to do, or something like that. And then the salesperson just sits, and you're supposed to wait 1 Mississippi to, the 1 and 2 and 3. You're supposed to wait literally 4 seconds or longer. And whoever speaks first technically is the one who's showing their hand, or in this case, they say that's the loser, but it doesn't really work that way. And this is something that I have studied and watched other people do. I am almost incapable of doing it, as you know, Tim. I cannot sit and not let something get answered. But you are, when I have let Tim do this properly, so we'll be on a sales call, we'll be on a conference call or something, and Tim will throw something out, or he'll be asked a question, and it's 1 and 2, and it feels like a century, 3 and 4. And sometimes I think, well, he's taking notes, maybe he's not going to answer. But then at the 5th second, like right when you're about to crack, he'll say, well, I think this. So what'd you think of this?
Or you'll do the one that I could kill you with sometimes, whereas, I don't know, Tim, what do you think? I'd kill you because I don't know. And I'll be like, and then gives you time to think. Then I've got to come up with something quick.
Well, that's a technique too.
Yeah, I know it's a technique too. I'm gonna kill you. No, I've always used the silent thing. I shouldn't say I've always used it, but I learned early on the importance of it. And I remember I had gone to an interview when I interviewed at Subaru, for instance. One of the people had said to me that you're going to be interviewing with this guy named Gary. And he's notorious for making the interviewee uncomfortable. And he's going to ask you a question and answer the question and then be quiet, because he will just sit in silence. and it'll be uncomfortable, but just sit there. So
I love this story because you've told this before. And
so the guy, he would ask me a question and I would answer it. And then he would just sit there and he would look around. He'd look out the window and he would kind of nod. He'd write down and it would go on. It would feel like it would go on for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. And then after he did that for about 2 or 3 questions, he looks at me and he goes, someone got to you already, huh? Somebody told you what the deal, how I operate. And he laughed. And because I would just sit there and I'd smirk and I'd smile at him because he was waiting for somebody to just start rambling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was his famous shtick. He wanted to get you to just ramble, and I didn't do that. And a lot of people used to do that. But yeah, it's a technique to get people to just kind of you'll learn more that way by just rambling because people do get uncomfortable with silence. And but they said it can't work all the time if people do get on to it. And that's where it says here later on where if you can use it once or use it twice until people catch on to it. And that's where this guy Gary said to me, "Oh, you're on to me," sort of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I
you can't overuse the gimmick. Yeah. So just to make sure everybody understands the rule here, it's how the golden silence works. It's a rule that was developed by Miller Hyman, a sales training company. In practice, it's simple. After you ask a question, wait at least 4 seconds for the answer, or more, depending on the situation. It's golden because, as the company puts it, a well-placed silence will significantly improve the quality and the quantity of the information the salesperson receives. But as Tim just said, it can be overused, and if you're familiar with the technique, you kind of short-circuit it, right?
Right. Well, there was a famous line. Well, shouldn't I famous line? But there was a time there was a story told at Kennedy's eulogy, Ted Kennedy's eulogy, where Chris Dodd says to him he was debating Mitt Romney for Senate, and they said Kennedy was famous for just blurting out all the time, and so they said to Ted Kennedy during the debate with Mitt Romney for Senate, they said, "Listen, Teddy, you're going to be asked a lot of questions, but don't be so quick to answer. Give it a little time. Let it breathe." And so
let it breathe. I like that. Yeah.
So they said the first question to Ted Kennedy was, you've been senator for 24 years. You're well known. People love you in Boston. You're the lion of the Senate, whatever. How come, and you're Democrat here in Boston and Massachusetts, and how come Governor Romney is polling so close to you? How could he possibly be so close in the polls to you? And they said, Chris Dodd says, we're sitting there and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. And they're looking and Chris Dodd says, he looks at John Kerry's like, "Good God, Teddy, answer the question." And they said, and they're waiting. And so then they said after the debate, they went up to him. They said, "Teddy, when we told you to pause, we didn't mean to, let it sit for minutes. What were you thinking?" And they said, Kennedy looked at him and said, "I was thinking it was a damn good question." he said, "I didn't know how to answer it." But yeah, it was an example of where it where he actually really was trying to think of something and he couldn't come up with an answer. And so it was almost way too much pause. But I've seen executives do this a lot in meetings where they just sit there. And you've seen it with people on press conferences where they'll just walk away, right?
Yep. And that example you gave was also a wonderful flashback to the fact that we used to have a very functioning Senate, and it was collegial, and you had those kinds of conversations that happened between the Democrats and the Republicans, and seems to like firebombing instead now. So there you go. That was the golden rule of silence, which could help you in your negotiating and or getting information from people, quality information that helps you solve their problems.
Well, it's such a simple thing, and it's actually such a useful thing. So, hey, thanks for joining us here in the Focus Group. We appreciate you spending time with us here every Wednesday. Be sure to also catch our Tuesday program, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released every Tuesday. You can find all of our media housed at focusgroupradio.com. Thanks to our friends at Deep Discount. This week, I picked a movie, Casablanca, which John won't ever let me live down because I have not seen it. Right, John?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And John picked A Chorus Line, which if you watch it, please watch the finale and wait for the woman to fall, or I think it's either a woman or a man to fall off the riser during the finale. And then the new release this week comes to us, It's The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It on Blu-ray, and you can get all of that at deep discount. And you can find deep discount by going to focusgroupradio.com. Thank you, John. We hope everyone has a good week and continues to enjoy their summer and is safe. I know everybody out there is looking forward probably to the fall and cooler weather. So be safe, and thanks for spending time with us. Take care. Bye.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.